Hello YouTube, today I'm gonna play the Jobava London against bots and I'm gonna increase the difficulty each time. And the reason I'm playing against bots is to really explain the opening, so I'm not playing with time on the clock, just to be able to really show you my thought process in every game and to show you how to play against it on different ratings. So let's get straight into it. And of course the Jobava London always starts with d4, and if they play d5 you can just continue with knight c3. This is just theory, not much to explain. Just aiming at that pawn, maybe b5 later. And basically, when they play knight c6 after bishop f4, this is the main position of the Jobava London. So whenever you see these moves, bishop f4 is always the move to play. Now already they play a bit of a sideline. In a lot of lines you would like to go knight b5 to attack c7. In this case, the bot is preemptively defending, which, well, if I don't go there, why would you voluntarily put your knight there? So that's already not the best move by the bot, but it's playable. And now never knight b5 is ever a move because we're not really attacking c7. So in this case, just continue your development. e3 is almost always a move you want to play after the first opening moves, just so your bishop can get out, your knight can develop, etc. And of course, bots are not gonna play theory, so yeah, we're seeing some weird moves again. Now in the Jobava London, in a lot of cases you actually castle queenside. So him pushing pawns on the king side isn't too scary for us. So basically, there's a choice here. You can develop your knight, you can develop your bishop first. In this case, I actually like bishop first, just so he can develop his bishop to f5. Yeah, and he goes to f3 now. But like I said, we're gonna castle queenside, so pushing pawns on this side of the board is actually quite alright for us. So let's just do that. And I know this diagonal is a bit weak, but he can't really put a piece here, so that's perfectly fine. And it's gonna take us 2 moves to castle if we want to. We can also first develop some more. So I'm thinking about developing the knight first. I don't think it really matters here. You can also develop your queen. Just don't develop your queen to e2 in this case, because that's probably where your knight wants to go. Now, knight e3 is probably also fine. I could actually prepare knight f2 and then expanding with e4. That's an idea to keep in mind as well. But if this and they take, it gets a bit messy. Although if you castle the other side, actually we got an open file. So there is something to say for that. So just for that reason, to keep options open, I'm gonna start with queen d2. And yeah, basically remaining flexible. Yeah, and that's why I remained flexible, because now knight h3 is actually a move. This is of course not the best move by the bot again. But now we can play knight h3, going to that nice f2 square and later breaking in the center. Now we're not in a rush or anything. Especially in the Jobava London, sometimes you just need to play slow and slowly but surely win the game. Knight c5, because he moved his knight back, knight b5, actually becomes an idea again now. Just attacking this pawn. If he takes with the bishop, we take back with check. And then if he blocks, we need to move on bishop again. So yeah, if we really accomplish something, we traded a bad bishop for, in that case, an active knight. So I don't really want to go for that. So I'm just gonna castle and continue our plan with moving on knight here and then expanding. Although in this case, yeah, if you just count, he is not defending this pawn. We're attacking it twice, so I can take. So probably taking is the best. And here I'm just gonna look which way to take is most optimal here. In a lot of cases in the Jobava London, you actually want to take on e5 with a pawn. But that's usually when you're attacking on the king side, and in this case his king hasn't castled yet. So taking with the bishop might be better here, activating my bishop a bit. Also keeping these ideas alive of knight b5 later in the game. And also after I play e4 and the e-file opens up, I'm aligned with his king. And if there's a pawn there, then I can't really get to his king. So in this case I'm going to take with the bishop. And let's see what he wants to do. Yeah, now this is a free pawn, so now I'm definitely going to take. And he's just giving all his pawns to us. Of course he can block. Or I guess he can develop his knight as well. So in this case, I could consider taking the knight. If he takes my knight back, I win another pawn. But if he takes my bishop here, I just need to move this bishop back. And I don't know if I've accomplished much. So I'm going to move this bishop here, keeping the pin here, which is annoying for him. Because, well, he missed it. Now I was threatening to take the knight and then win this pawn. So that's what I'm going to do. And in this case, I'm just taking advantage of his moves. I just played a slow opening, and you see these bots are just going to make mistakes at some point. And yeah, I haven't even completed development, but yeah, if they make mistakes and you can take advantage, just go ahead and do it. So this just wins a pawn. And he can't castle, which he probably wasn't going to anymore anyway, but yeah. Of course, I'm going to look at some other checks now. And queen f5 looks really nice. Again, I haven't completed development, so this would also be a good time to do so. But just because his king looks very weak, I'm also looking at this and notice that all these squares are covered. Of course, he can block with the queen. Now, a queen trade wouldn't be the worst for me because I'm up in material. But at the same time, yeah, that doesn't really help me any further. It's probably going to prolong the game. So I'm now thinking, of course, my earlier idea was knight f2 to go for the e4 push. But actually now knight f4 makes sense as well, because this pawn is pretty weak. Also after this queen check, maybe later I can add some more pressure if I want, if he decides to defend with the queen, for instance. So let's go after that pawn. Also developing some more, because that knight was... It had a move, but I wouldn't say it completed development. Of course, he's going for a counterattack, which is a bit scary, but at the same time, I can trade queens, and then this pawn is just hanging. Only the knight is defending, and my bishop and knight are attacking. And after trading queens, there's no checkmate threat here anymore, so I can safely just win this pawn. He takes with the bishop instead of the rook, which is alright. Only thing to watch out for is, does he have any in-between moves after this? But I'm realizing I'm also attacking two pieces, so he really doesn't have time for any moves like, I don't know, attacking my bishop or something. I can take his bishop, in that case, defending my own bishop and just win a piece, so I can safely take this with the knight, and of course take back. And we've won another pawn, and just like that, we haven't really won any pieces, but we're just up 4 pawns, and yeah, that's good enough, usually. And in this case, I should really activate my my remaining pieces. So I'm going to bring my rook up to a light square where it can never be attacked by the bishop. And basically, idea is to later bring the rook over. I could already bring it over, start pushing there, although right now it's hanging. So I could think of something like this, attacking the bishop, maybe putting my king on b1 and swing the other rook over. So let's start with this first. Because the king usually, after castling, belongs on b1 anyway. Now in this case it doesn't really matter because he doesn't have much pieces anymore. Of course he has ideas like this, but in this case these are not scary. I can just push b3 and that's okay. Also my rook was defending in this case. But even if it wasn't, just pushing b3, as long as you don't have a rook here, that's fine. Now in this case I want to put a rook here, but still, if he goes there, my other rook is defending, so that is still fine. So I am going for this. And let's see what he wants to do. Okay, he puts his king aligned with that rook. I'm just going to push pawns. And basically I want this pawn on c5. Yeah, this move doesn't really do anything. I guess he wants to push the pawn and then double up rooks. But yeah, I can push my pawn or move a rook there or later my bishop there. So that's completely fine. And now the bishop is just pretty much out of the game. It's going to take him some time to get it back in the game. And now I can start attacking some stuff. Of course, the rook is now defending. So that's something to watch out for. I can also just trade pieces and go to a winning endgame, which I might want to do. But I think it's better to have a rook there. So I could put a rook there and then take back with the bishop. But in this case, I can take back with the rook. And that's just a little more active because I have a rook on the open file now. So that's what I'm going for. Yeah, and here it's a completely winning endgame, so trading rooks makes sense. King is forced to move back, so yes, king is a little bit less active there. And after I trade rooks, I just have so many more pawns that, yeah, you just go for the winning endgame. And yeah, like I showed, even if, against those low-rated bots, you don't necessarily need to win a lot of pieces. But just, yeah, just make sure you have a lot of pawns, and that's more than enough. And in the endgame, it's always good to activate your king. There's a lot of things to do here. I can probably start thinking about pushing pawns. But I'm just going to go for the easiest approach. Get my king as a defender. Then push my pawns and slowly but surely break through. That's what I'm going to do. And that's really nothing for him to do here. I can trade pawns here. Okay, so he pushes. I could go here, and this is actually a little bit instructive. If I go here, I'm blocking my own bishop, and also my king can't really come in because his bishop is on that diagonal. So it's better to start pushing this pawn. Also notice my bishop is covering this, and that pawn would be covering this square. So the king can't really get closer to my pawn, so if he isn't careful, I can already promote in 2 moves. Okay, so that does kind of stop my idea, because if I go here, the king can go here. So I can now push this pawn, for example, first. Yeah, so let's just do that. And of course the king can get closer, but I also have a bishop still to join the game. So here he might sack his bishop and yeah, leave me with the only bishop, but that's easy. So I'm just gonna do this. Best move for him is probably to move his king over and stop the promotion. Now in this case, I can put my bishop here and threaten to promote, and he probably has to sack his bishop. So let's do that. Yeah, and now afterwards I can even win this pawn. And yeah, now I'm up a bishop, and I don't even know how much anymore, like 3 pawns, yeah. And yeah, this pawn is closest to promotion. This pawn can also promote. So I'm just going to move my bishop out of the way and show you that 2 pawns, I don't even need to use my king. It probably is better, but just 2 pawns, and he has too much to deal with. So he has to defend 1 pawn, I'm going to use the other pawn to basically make the king choose where to go. So yeah, now he needs to go there to stop promotion. But now I'm going to push the other pawn, and he needs to go there to stop that promotion, but he can stop both promotions. So 2 pawns is enough. You don't even need your own king to do so. In this case, let's just promote this pawn. And it will be checkmate pretty soon now, I guess. So let's see. Probably bringing a queen here. Forcing the king back, making sure the king doesn't have lots of squares. Well, in this case, I can actually make another queen, by the way. So let's just do that. It doesn't really matter anymore. Of course, you want to find the quickest checkmate. But yeah, in a game, especially if you have enough time, I'm not playing with time in this case, of course. But just look for easiest checkmates. And yeah, this is just checkmate in 1 in this case. So let's play that. And that's how you see how you can beat the 1000 rated bot. Of course, we are not done yet. I'm gonna play a new game, and I'm gonna increase the difficulty. So I'm gonna play against Emir here, 1200 rated bot, and also try and play the Jobava London. Now, of course, they are not forced to go into the Jobava London, so it's always a question if they're gonna do that. I've showed this already, so yeah, again, this is the main position. After this, I'm gonna explain what to do. Okay, so this is actually an interesting move. Trying to get to my bishop early, but at the same time, it kind of stops his development. And there's a couple things to do here. You can move your bishop back and say, okay, he's wasted 2 moves with his knight, and I'm just adding development. You can move your bishop up, it's probably gonna get attacked again, which is actually all right. You can then move it back. If he goes for something like this and then takes, that just opens up your rook. I know there's a lot of arrows, but yeah, that's a way to go for. But what I just like to do here is just go for e3 and say, okay, if you want to take my bishop, go ahead. And I am actually ahead in development. I have really nice control over the e5 square here. And yeah, right now he has only his queen developed. I have my knight and 2 pawns, he just has 1 pawn. So I'm way ahead in development, and I have this nice square on e5. So So I'm immediately going to play knight f3 to go to e5. And another thing to notice is whenever you've captured here, usually it's a bishop trade. In this case, it was knight for bishop. It's almost always better to castle king side. So I'm not going to castle queen side this game. I'm going to castle king side. Also notice that this move kind of pins the queen, but in this case he can just block in various ways. So that is not really a move you want to play. But knight e5, even though it moves the same piece twice, forces him to move the same piece twice as well. So in that case, I'm not losing any tempo. And I'm just improving my knight. So that's always a good move. So let's play it just now. He moves his queen. And I have to notice that he is attacking this pawn behind the knight. So there's always, when there's something behind your pieces, also look at that, because maybe they can get rid of your piece. So for instance, my opponent might be thinking about f6, forcing me to move the knight and then maybe attack this pawn. Now in this case I'm seeing my knight is d3 as a square defending that pawn, so that's not too scary. I could preemptively defend it with my knight, for instance, but that hinders my own development, so not really what I want to do. So in this case I'm going to develop my bishop, and the reason I choose d3 is because e2 is just a little more passive. b5 is the most active, but in that case he could just play c6, and basically my bishop has to move again. So it's whether or not you think c6 is a weakness. In this case I don't really think it is, so I don't want to force c6. Now funnily enough, I could now play bishop e5 to be annoying, to pin that knight, but really I'm not threatening anything, so in that case I would consider it moving the same piece twice, which is not good. And remember, if he takes my knight and I can take back with the pawn, I'll just repair my pawn structure, and I have really strong control over the center with these two pawns, so yeah, I'm not afraid of him taking here. He is attacking this pawn, however, so that's something I need to watch out for. But in this case, I'm seeing that if he takes, I can just sack my bishop, probably just take that pawn there. And then if he takes my bishop back, I take his knight. And yeah, that's fine. Of course, he can do the same, so he can then take this pawn, but then my bishop can come back and I've actually won a knight. So this pawn is not really hanging, so I can safely castle. So let's see what he wants to do. Yeah, he wants to kick my knight out now. And in this case, I don't have these 3 square anymore to protect that pawn. So it's best to take the knight. That pawn would still be hanging, but if he takes the pawn, remember, I've just taken a knight. So a knight for a pawn is of course a good trade. I'm gonna save my knight and be up a knight. So he really has to take back, and then I can find a way to defend this pawn. Now there are multiple ways to do this. G3 in these positions, even though it weakens the white squares a bit, is always a move you can consider. But if your knight is still on c3, almost always knight e2 is best. Just defending that pawn, but also giving mobility to our c pawn later on. And in this case he is attacking it again. So yeah, question. I don't really think pinning our own queen would be the wisest idea. So I'm going to go for g3 here now. And this is just a really solid position. And my opponent is just developing, and that's what we are going to do. Now I want to connect my rooks, sorry. I'm just wondering, can I already go for something like this? But probably not. So in this case, I am going to play queen d2. Now I know it's aligned here still, but yeah, this pawn is defended by another pawn, so not really that scary. Of course, this is a move they can play, but I wanted to put my rook over anyway. Now the question is, do I want it on c1 or b1? And I think c1 is better, because if I want a rook on b1, I can always use the other rook. And I'm really just preparing to strike in the center. Now, this would weaken this pawn a bit. So that's something to watch out for. And also, with the weak light squares, always you need to watch out for, can his queen infiltrate? Now, it's going to cost him 2 moves to do this, but that would threaten checkmate. So I need to watch out and to see how I can prevent that. Now I'm realizing if he goes here, I can, for instance, drop my queen here, so his queen doesn't have a square over there. So that's a way. I could also move my knight somewhere. So if his queen lands here, I have bishop f2 as a move, sorry, bishop f1, to cover that g2 square. So I see that I can respond whenever he tries to do something like that. So I'm not in a rush, and therefore I can consider c4 already. Now if he takes, it does leave me with an isolated pawn, but he has a doubled isolated pawns there, which I'm then gonna attack and also activate my rook. So this is perfectly fine to do. And he doesn't take, which is probably wise. And I can take, repairing his pawn structure, but also giving my rook an open file. So it's a bit of a trade-off. I'd say it's worth it. So yeah, let's just go for that. So he has some problems on this open file right now. And I can activate my rook. I like c5 as a square because it also puts pressure on that pawn. And it's defended by our pawn. So yeah, if need be, I can... I don't have to move my rook if it's attacked by his rook, for example. So yeah, let's go to c5. And basically I'm trying to double up rooks and attack this. Of course he can defend, but just slowly but surely applying more pressure. And yeah, at some point he's probably gonna collapse. He's gonna strike in the center, which is probably wise to do. Now I should remind myself that my pawn is still pinned. So I could go here, for instance, but after he takes, I can't really do anything with this pawn. But I could move my queen, for example. So maybe queen c4 is a nice move there to get out of the way. If he ever takes here, I can also always take with my knight. I can leave things. But yeah, taking once is definitely all right, because that was an isolated pawn, which is now no longer isolated, and he doesn't even take back. Which is odd, but it gives me the chance to take over there, which would attack his rook as well. Yeah, and he doesn't have any sacrifices. I can just take back. That doesn't do anything. I could take here, but that would give him 2 rooks for his queen, which is not the best usually. So I'm just going to take here, attacking his rook, see what he wants to do. If rook moves up, then I would be able to take here. In this case it doesn't. Now I can move my queen over, putting another attacker on c7 and also defending my f6 square. So that's a multi-purpose move. Also knight d4 is a nice move to consider here. Just because it blocks his pawn and just activates my knight. In this case I can just take here. There's gonna be some trades, maybe, but in the end, always one of my pieces ends up on the 7th rank, which is good, and also it wins a pawn. So let's just go for that. Of course, he doesn't have to trade, but he is going to, and he trades queens as well. And now this rook is really active. I've won a pawn. I'm up 3 points of material at the moment, and he tries to activate his rook, and I'm noticing that his king is pretty weak here, right? So I'm looking at, let's say his rook takes here, can I go here? And it doesn't really work because his king has this square still. I would like to play bishop c4 to cover that square, but that's covered by the pawn right now. I could consider pushing my pawn, maybe forcing the king over. Then again, my rook is kind of tied down to push, to protecting that pawn. So I'm just gonna play simple move, b3. So his rook can take the pawn here. Okay, and he's trying to go for a rook trade. I could definitely go for this, because this is just a completely winning endgame for me. And maybe that's easiest, but it's, in this case, it's better to take on a7. Notice that his rook can't come in with check. That would be checkmate actually, but the knight is covering. So I have to calculate some things like, can he attack my bishop? No, that's covered. So, and he can't really go to c2 attacking my knight because that's covered. So really just taking the pawn is fine in this case. But yeah, I need to deal with my back rank now. So that's something to watch out for in all cases. And he is attacking this pawn as well now. So I might now just trade rooks. I've won an extra pawn, which is more than enough. This would defend that pawn. And it's defended by my bishop, so that's why this can lead to trades. And he goes for the trade. And yeah, this should be a completely winning endgame. Now this pawn is probably going to be lost. But yeah, I have so many more pawns that that this should be a completely winning, especially because these pawns are both passed pawns. He has a passed pawn as well, actually, but it's just isolated, so probably not gonna get too far. I could consider knight c3 here, but he might be able to push that pawn, and yeah, I'm debating whether I like that. I think it's alright, because I can at least defend my pawn. Now he can attack my knight again. I'd have a check, trading some more pieces. And this pawn, I'm not really too scared of it promoting, because my bishop can always come back. So I'm gonna go for this. If he takes here immediately, then that's easiest. So yeah, he defends, which is one of the ways to deal with this. I can attack it again. He's probably gonna push there. Let's go for that anyway. Put my knight here, defending this pawn. And I should probably start using my king to hunt down this pawn. I could also try and promote this, because this pawn is not going anywhere. But I think it's easier to deal with his transfer, because this is not going anywhere either, and he's just giving up his bishop. Okay, I will have tripled pawns here, but okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's not real compensation for him. And this pawn, even if it gets further, my knight is always defending, so that's not scary. So my king can just come over and grab it. And yeah, his bishop can't really defend. I guess he can defend like that. But in that case, yeah, I can just take in this case, and that's just fine. And here, question is how I want to take. Probably with the king, just because my knight is active and defending that pawn. Not that I really need that pawn. And easiest here, even though it loses a pawn, is just to get his bishop, give him no counterplay at all. So this is a fork. And not really a fork, because I'm not winning any material. But it's just easiest. And probably easiest now is to have my king defending here, so these pawns are never a problem. Yeah, and if possible, just trade these off. And just stop promoting on the other side of the board, and there's nothing really he can do. He can try and get to this pawn, but by that time I have promoted, so... And if I want to, I can defend that diagonal with my bishop or something, but that's not even needed. And easiest is just to promote here. And like I showed in last game, try and prevent this king from moving. So this is a move that basically keeps his king in this box. Yeah, now I can even prevent this king from moving even further. And I like my queen to be on a dark square, because I have a light squared bishop, so these can combine well if they are on other color complexes. Just so you can see, the king now is completely boxed in, which means that this is potential for stalemate. So all these squares are covered. So if I make a pawn move now, for instance, that would be stalemate. So that's always something to watch out for. I could put the bishop here, but then after king h7, I basically have the same problem. So question is, what do I want to do? I think I'm going to actually put the bishop on c6. Just so his king always has these two moves. And now I can just safely push my pawn. And it's probably not the quickest way to win, but it's easiest, because I just know he only has these two moves forever. It's just important that whenever you're going to promote, make sure his king is on that square where you can check it. So in this case, I'm just going to play a waiting move. I guess I can move my king as well, doesn't really matter. And if his king is there, I can promote with check. And that's checkmate next move. There's probably multiple, like... No, that's not checkmate actually. Is this the only checkmate? I really think there were more, but maybe that's the only checkmate. But yeah, let's play it. If you see a checkmate, no need to look for more than one. Checkmate is just it's just the best move always. So yeah, that's a game against the 1200. So let's up the difficulty once more and use David as a player, a 1400. And David is actually a really tricky player, so I expect him to deviate from the opening already and try to go for tricks. Like I said, he doesn't go for the Jobava London, and this is something that can happen in your games as well, so it's still going to be instructive, so I'm going to continue on. And in this case, I am going to play knight c3, because I'm still going to play Jobava London style. Now, I was expecting him to go for knight f6 in the Dutch. He's probably delaying it and still going for the same thing. In which case, bishop g5 was the best. But now with d5 included, sorry, that's not really a thing. So I'm just gonna play Jobava London style and yeah, see what he wants to do. He's gonna play a bit of a stone wall structure. Now, if he just keeps making pawn moves, almost always knight b5 is a good move. Just remember to look, can he play this queen check? In this case he can't. Because in that case I would have to move my knight back and it's just a waste of a move. But in this case he is forced to either defend with the bishop or the knight. And he completely misses that I was threatening this fork because my bishop is defending. And yeah, even this 1400 rated bot blunders in the opening. So that's quite interesting to see. Yeah, we win a rook. And I wouldn't want focus too much on trying to get this knight to safety. We've won an exchange at the very least if they get this knight back. And usually it takes a lot of time to get this knight to safety, which just hinders your development. And it's usually not worth it. So we really want to keep developing. Now in this case I can trade some more pieces. I'm up material, so that's always a nice thing to do. I would activate this queen. But yeah, that queen is not really going anywhere, so let's just do that. And again, I'm not going to focus on this knight. I'm going to develop my pieces and probably e3. That's always a move in the Jobava London, just opening up for my bishop and my knight to develop. Yeah, in this case it's a question what I want to do. Of course he's going to take this pawn, but I don't really mind that. I think c3 is the best. I could defend with my queen, but then after he takes, I need to move my queen back anyway. And I think having pushed my pawn to c3 might help. It probably doesn't really matter too much. But basically after he takes, I'm just going to offer a queen trade. Because I'm up in exchange, that's perfectly fine. Also c4 is an idea now. Of course, here I'm not going to castle queenside, but I'm going to aim to castle kingside. Yeah, and he's just giving me a pawn, which is going to mess up my pawn structure, so I might not even want to take. And basically he makes it kind of free for my knight to get out now. And since he doesn't have a queen on the board anymore, I'm not in a rush to castle, so just let's get my knight out. Now I'm not up a full exchange, I'm up a full knight. Now this knight might still be captured in the future, because from here it doesn't really have any squares, but at the very least I can get a pawn for it. This is just a bad move, because he completely locks things down, but I have this nice pawn break with c4. Threatening to win a pawn here. And now I can actually win a pawn there as well. Probably this is better. And I might not even take with the knight, I might take this pawn with the bishop, because that develops a piece and I can always take here afterwards. So let's go for that. Yeah, and he's really messing up here. And here easiest probably to take the bishop and then take the pawn. Don't take the pawn immediately, because that hangs your bishop. So just trade some more. And again, if you're up so much material, trading is always a good idea. Even if you haven't finished development yet, that's usually alright. And in this case, I can save my knight, which was under attack by with tempo, basically. So doesn't really take any time. I'm just going to develop my other knight. h3 was possible as well, but yeah, the route via f6 is probably not best. It might get trapped there, so yeah, this is just easiest. And Actually, because it is an endgame, it might be best to play king d2 to activate my rook. Especially because he has only one rook left, so yeah, having my king out in the open is actually good because we're getting into an endgame. So let's go for this. Probably castling was a fine move there as well. Okay, so he's gonna go aggressive. I can just drop my knight back, and yeah, that knight is a little bit passive, but it creates some threats at the same time, so that's perfectly fine. And I can always start moving it back if I need it later in the game. But right now, I'm just gonna double up rooks. And basically start attacking on that side of the board. Now here I can win another pawn. And it gives me an isolated pawn, but yeah, if you can win a pawn, that's always a good thing. So let's go for this. If he goes there, I can move my knight back, and again, that's a little bit passive, but I have won a pawn. And I can easily get away with something like this. Yeah, so let's go here. This pawn is defended. And just like this, I can activate my knight again. Could also activate my rook first, which might even be better. Because after my rook moves, later on, I can then put my knight here. He is attacking f4 now. And it's really not necessary. I should just take here. It comes with check, so he can't even take here. And then afterwards I can just develop my knight, and that defends this pawn as well. Okay, he starts attacking my rook. And really, yeah, he can take this pawn if I move my rook up. But probably this is threatening to win that knight, because if he takes a pawn, I can have a check here and then pick up the knight later. So let's just go for this annoying pin. And he's just attacking some pawns, but I'm winning a knight here, so let's go for that. And of course, if you can win pieces, that's almost always a good thing. Of course, you have to watch out for his counterplay, but in this case, yeah, he's gonna get one pawn, maybe more. I could even, that's probably more accurate, go for this check in between. Because that knight will still be hanging afterwards, and then his rook can't even come in. Although I guess he can sack his rook for my knight and then save this knight. But in this case that might actually be better. Usually taking a knight is better than winning an exchange. But in this case, since I'm already up so much material, that's probably better. And here's the question what I want to do. I probably want to check his king in some way. So this is a move, getting my rook out of danger at the same time. I'm looking at knight f5. Knight f5, probably his king comes in and then my rook and my knight are both hanging. Although I can check here and actually win his knight. The knight f5 check makes sense. These squares are all covered. So the only other square he has is d6. Which also is a bit annoying because I don't have this check. Also this check is almost checkmate, actually. You can move here and then, well, first of all, you can take my rook, so let's not do that. The knight here, king here. I'm gonna have to move this rook anyway. I can also counterattack his knight, because it doesn't have many squares. And then later go for the king. I think that's easiest decision here. And here I can, no, still not go for that. Why am I looking at this move all the time? Yeah, so now I could go for the king. Could also pin this knight, by the way. Yeah, that's annoying for him. And it's tough to defend. Okay, he goes for a random check. I'm just gonna take with the pawn, connecting these pawns. And he takes a random pawn, losing his knight. Okay, that's always fine by me. Yeah, now it's basically just a cleanup. I could consider going here, giving up that pawn. But probably something... Yeah, this is probably most accurate, just having my rooks connected, always defending each other. And getting the king out of the way and then start promoting this pawn probably. Although in this case, I'm looking if I can actually weave a mating net. So if I check the king here, he can get away. But if I put my rook on d7, just notice that the king doesn't have a lot of squares. I guess he can go back. Then I can check him. I think, and it's not necessary at all, you can just go for a promotion, but I think I can probably checkmate the king in some moves here. So let's put the knight up. He has one square there, I believe. I can also go up. Let's put the knight here. This is still defended, of course. Let's defend the knight. And surely but surely the king has less and less squares to go to. So probably I can go for something like this. I just keep giving his king less and less space. And eventually it's probably gonna lead to checkmate. I'm not even calculating everything. I'm just saying, okay, it's gotta be checkmate at some point. And knight g3 here. Looks like it's checkmate, so let's play that. And there you go. That's another game done. And yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it here. I might make more of these videos, just really explaining the opening in detail. Also maybe against higher or lower rated bots. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you would like to see for a video in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you want more of this. And maybe become a member if you really like this. And else, I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.